Okay, folks, it's been a minute or two since I did my last rambling on human and organizational performance, and so I figured why not? We'll come back and do another one. And so today we're going to focus on a particular incident, and there's incidents that we learn about, and it's not uncommon, but then there's incidents that you become somewhat infatuated with. And today's one, I think, fits more in that infatuation category for me. Uh, why? Well, it involves my home state of Louisiana. It involves a company that we all know and love, and it it has some of these crazy dynamics that these type of events have that just make you want to learn more. And so um, we're going to talk about this incident. It's the Lake Peigneur drilling incident that occurred back in 1980. And what really drove me to look at this was one, I had never heard about it until I saw it on television. We'll talk more about that. And then I went back and saw some of those videos that the Chevron historian used to put together. And maybe it's been a decade or so, and it really was so cool to watch him. How about that as a job, right? It'd be like it's the coolest job in the corporation. Sorry, Mr. Worth. But to have those artifacts, some going all the way back to Standard Oil days, and sometimes I think we forget about the history of what we have today, what is the corporation today. And so what I wanted to do with this event is kind of look at it from a revisionist history standpoint. Is it a positive event in our history? No, but it happened, so why not learn from it? And so we're gonna talk about this Lake Peigneur event. No one was, which shocks me still to this day, that no one was injured, no one was killed. Uh, Again, when you hear the circumstances, you'll understand my dumbfoundedness, which is how I normally look. But and we'll talk about that and how it applies, how human and organizational performance applies to that particular event. So that's our goal for today. And in the hop world, we spend a ton of time, and rightfully so, talking about latent conditions and how they're triggered by active errors. And for the non-human performance folks, it's a hard one sometimes to wrap your head around, because the active error is there. It's in our vision. We see it. It triggered the event. Damn it! Why are we not paying attention to it? It's also easy, and we run into this a lot in incident investigations where people want to focus on the active error and don't understand why we're even in this team. Why do we even get this team together? It's obvious this is what happened. Let's go fix this. Well, if the this that we go fix is that active error, it's pretty pointless. I mean, the intentions are well-meaning, don't get me wrong, but nevertheless we end up with some new piece of paper, some new checklist, some new way of trying to fix the human, which is really not the problem to begin with. So let's set the scene. Here we are, cold day, cold by South Louisiana standards, in November and 1980, and we have a drilling operation and a salt mine, which are near one another. And look, I don't claim to be a geologist by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not a rock looker, but in my part of the world and around the world, salt domes tend to trap hydrocarbons. So it shouldn't be odd to say that we have a salt mine and some exploration for hydrocarbons going on at the same time. This particular salt mine, Diamond Crystal Salt Mine, been mining salt since 1919. Not the first day on the job. Been doing it for a while. And then on the same side, we have one of our legacy corporations, Texaco, doing their exploratory drilling out on the lake. And they really had nothing to do with one another until they did. And that's that's where things get interesting. And this event was actually used on the History Channel's Engineering Disasters. And that's where I first heard about it, and what made me want to talk about it. Again, I didn't hear about it within my day-to-day work. I heard about it sitting on the sofa, letting Chevron ruin the way I watch television yet again. So this particular event, it's so again, you have the salt miners doing their thing, 55 miners in the salt mine doing their thing, drilling crew, those hands doing their thing on the rig, and then unfortunately, supposedly, allegedly, mathematical error brings the two together in a way that no one expected, and created a number of firsts. And these are some pictures from the actual event, but it created the largest waterfall in Louisiana. Here you see a picture of it there. It is the only documented time the Gulf of Mexico flowed north, and it created the largest geyser in Louisiana, and there's a picture of it there as well. It changed the lake that averaged about 10 feet deep to 200 and plus feet deep in some areas, and caused millions and millions of dollars in damage. And so I don't want to oversimplify the latent condition, but the way I understand it is that there were coordinates provided on where the rig should be placed. And so you had to triangulate these coordinates to place the rig where we wanted to explore. And there's two methods, where one uses meridians, and then another method where they use the equator, and the opposite method was used, placing the rig, unbeknownst to the crew and everyone involved, in the wrong place. And as you can see from the diagram, based directly above the salt mine itself. And so, unaware of the error, thinking we're in the right place, let's go to work, let's do what Texaco pays us to do, and boom, we start drilling, and they encounter the rig is surprised because they encounter salt earlier than imagined, but this also is that active error where the driller mistakenly drills into the third level of the salt mine. So again, this is easy. This is where we can stop and say, well, you're fired. You screwed up. You or maybe we send him back to well control school, or her back to well control school, because that should work, right? Name, blame, and retrain. Because this is, this person's drilled hundreds of successful wells, and now all of a sudden this happens, and she can't be any good. Gotta find somebody else to do the job. And so what I love about human and organizational performance, especially in investigations, is it changes how we look at things. And it would be easy to punish the driller. Very easy. I mean, you just pack your bags, run him off, run her off, whatever. But would it really solve anything? So you fix the active error. This person obviously didn't know what the heck they were doing, so pack your bags, you gone. But we could have the same latent condition in multiple other places. It could happen again in a few years, what have you. We don't solve the problem. And the next time we might not be so lucky. And I say we were lucky this time. Yeah, it cost us millions, but you had 55 miners in the salt mine when the drill bit enters the mine, thusly trying to drain Lake Peigneur through the 14-inch drill bit path that it made. And so now you have water eroding all the salt and just this, you're on the ground and there's water rushing into your work area from the lake above you. This is where Mr. Iverson and I disagree. Practice is extremely important. You play like you practice. And this is why our emergency management folks spend so much damn time practicing with us. Practicing things that we hope to never use. And to drill these very skills into us, that way when the time comes, hopefully it never comes, but when it comes, we can use them. So you had the rig crew as well. They escaped without incident. And they just stand by and watch as their work site gets sucked into this whirlpool. As you hear my neighbor, who's a National Guardsman, fly over in his pretty cool jet. I'd love to go run outside and take a peek at it, but I'll continue rambling. So 55 miners get out. Rig crew gets out without any incident. Rig's gone. It's in the sinkhole. It's going down to the bottom of the new bottom of Lake Peigneur. And then there's this lucky soul. So if you watch, and again, watch the video, because this cat right here has some of the greatest lines ever, right? And so this is Mr. Leon Viator Jr., the late Mr. Leon Viator Jr., passed away in 2014. And he had a new boat, want to take his nephew out, test out the new boat, go catch some catfish. Simple as that. And, you could see in the picture there with his chic little hat on, the I Survived Lake Peigneur. And, but man, when you hear him talk, you can't help but empathize with him. And when he talks about this eye, meaning the whirlpool, and unknowingly trying to figure out what it is he's looking at, he thought it was the end of the world. And he watching these 150-year-old trees just snap like nothing, and loaded barges, and again you go back to the pictures, these huge barges just getting sucked into the abyss of the whirlpool that was created. And that's actually how he was able to escape, is because one of the large barges actually plugged the hole momentarily, and he was able to escape to the shore, tie his boat to the tree, only to watch his boat get pulled in as chaos continued to unfold. And he ends with one of the greatest lines. And so I tell people a lot of times that I hate to fish. My father-in-law ruined me on fishing. You can't talk. There's no music allowed, no nothing, and you're not coming back until you have dinner. And I'm sorry, that's just not my idea of relaxation. Well, Mr. Viator ends this segment with the line that I prefer to buy my fish. And after what he went through, I don't blame him, man. Buy your fish, partner. And so a simple share, as we go forward, we talk about not being that safety cop, not being that safety guy. And in this case, not focusing on that driller's active error. Take the time to truly understand what the latent condition actually is that may have been sitting there lying dormant for forever and is now just being triggered. And I can't say it nearly as eloquently as Mr. Payne, but we can either blame and punish, or we can learn and improve. No damn way we can do both. So, till next time, folks.